Hello, YouTube. Gringo Picante here, and welcome to the next vlog episode of my trucking vlog. And I got a huge update. Yesterday, I passed my CDL test, and I am now CDL certified. And this journey, I think, took me about 8 months to go from not knowing jack about trucking to learning that it might be a good trade to get into to the whole process involved me, you know, going through the process of getting a CDL permit, which also included, me getting a DOT certification, etc. And I am now officially an employee of Wilson Logistics because I went there. The first week was orientation and some basic introduction to the pre-trip inspection and the maneuvers that you got to do on the pad, which is basically a big parking lot that's sort of like an optical course, or the thing that you do. You got cones and stuff, and you learn how to do certain maneuvers, like just very basic maneuvers, such as like going forward straight and stopping, and reversing and staying straight while reversing, doing a forward offset maneuver, reverse offset maneuver, just basic stuff like that. And also, the first week, they took us driving like for 10 miles, and then we switched students in the truck, and the next student drove 10 miles back to the headquarters here in Missouri. And the next 2 weeks, me and six other students ended up going to Texas. The class was so huge that the 2 weeks of what they call craft training, um, basically they had to split us up. And so a bunch of students stayed here in Missouri while me and six other students went to Texas. And the reason they call it craft training is in those 2 weeks, you basically are getting in what's called a day truck, where it's a semi truck, but it doesn't have a camper in the back. And you stay at a hotel. In the morning, your trainer picks you up, and you go and you basically drive back and forth between two warehouses where you pick up a load of craft products, whether it be barbecue sauce, condiments, stuff like that. At least that's what we were hauling in Texas. And it's usually like 20 to 30 something thousand pounds worth of stuff, and we haul all of that to another warehouse, and we back up into a dock and deliver it, and then we pick up an empty an empty trailer, not empty trainer, and then we bring that back and rinse and repeat. And it was just like a basic way of us learning how to drive the truck, just doing very basic things, turns. Occasionally we would actually take an alternate route back and forth between the two warehouses on a highway, so that we could have a little bit of experience of what it's like to drive on a highway, learn how to merge safely, stuff like that, learn how to make turns, learn how to make tight turns, etc. And after those 2 weeks of training, then we got into a rental minivan that they provided us, and we drove all the way back here to Missouri. And then the next week, it was just testing. And I got 100% on my pre-trip inspection. Like the CDL test that we took was divided into 3 sections. It was a pre-trip inspection, basic maneuvers, and then the actual driving test, where you basically do a round trip on the road for about 20 miles, I think. At least it seemed like 20 miles. And it was pretty fun. I got 100% on my pre-trip inspection. I got 100% on my maneuvers. Didn't miss a damn thing. But I had some pretty lousy training during the 2 weeks that I was there, so I ended up having to take the driving test twice, because there was a handful of mistakes I made due to things that I didn't learn that I should have learned in craft training. But when I failed that part, the next day, that happened on a Wednesday, and on Thursday, on the day after that, No, I'm sorry, I had the test on Tuesday, and I only failed the driving part. And but you get two attempts. And on Wednesday, I had a different trainer take me and two other students who failed their driving test out and basically uh, trained us in a way that filled in the gap of knowledge that we didn't have on how to handle certain types of turns. That was basically our problem, and it's like there's a type of turn that you got to make where it's a right turn from one road and you go to another road, but there's like a triangular shaped concrete island here, kind of blocking you from turning as wide as you can. And it was just a simple matter of learning how to ride the white line and go as wide as you can without, hitting the curb on your left, so that the tandem wheels on the back clears the curb on the right. And we went from hitting the curb to having, up to 2 feet of clearance on that type of a tight turn. And we just needed to learn how to do that. And because none of us have ever had any experience with trailers beforehand. And after that day training, when I took the driving test again on Friday, I got 100% on the driving test. Didn't miss a damn thing. And so that's good news. So I'm now officially CDL certified. And from what I've been told, the next step is that I have a bunch of paperwork that I had to do last night at the hotel on this laptop. And it involved like tax forms, stuff like that. I had to set up my direct deposit because starting next week, I'll officially be on the payroll, where I'll be making $900 a week as a trainer. And the next phase is that I'm going to be doing, I think, several months worth of over-the-road training, team driving with a trainer. So at that point, we'll be living out of the truck. And if there's ever time during that period where my trainer wants to go home, spend some time with his family, whatever, I'm the kind of person I don't really want to go home. So when that happens, I just tell my trainer, hey, I don't want to go home. So at that point, Wilson Logistics will actually put me in a hotel and pay for it. And I'll sit there in the hotel while I'm waiting for the trainer to come back from, time off with his family and going home. But I'll still be getting paid. And after that phase of training, the final phase of over-the-road training is going to be me team driving with a fellow graduate for like a couple weeks. And at that point, I think we'll have the ability to make more than $900 a week. Like, we'll be making $900 a week minimum, but I think we'll be, if there's enough miles, and at that point, I think we're going to be getting paid by the mile. And at that point, there is a possibility where we could probably make up to $1,500 a week, from what I've been told. And then after that's done, then that's when they'll finally cut me loose, put me in my own truck, and then I'll just be driving by myself as a company driver. Now, I've been on the fence for a while on whether or not to be a company driver with them versus a lease purchase operator. Or no, I think the correct term is just lease operator, because it's a walk-away lease. You don't keep the truck after you lease it for a while. And I was really tempted to go leasing because I hear you can make a crap load of money per week. But as I've learned more about it, I learned that it's become a question of how much of that money can you actually keep after expenses, after paying the weekly weekly renter fee, and then there's other expenses like gas, and who knows what kind of unplanned for expenses are, like maintenance, all that stuff. And also how much money you make is dependent on the load that you accept. And it kind of reminds me of DoorDash. If you have any experience door dashing, you know that you get paid per delivery, and it's not always the same, and you don't always get good delivery deals. So there's a whole lot involved, and I'm still haven't made the decision whether or not I will go lease or company. But I've been getting advice from so many really, really experienced truckers, not just on a trucker forum, but just dealing with truckers face to face at Wilson. And I think the wisest decision I can make is to just spend my first year as a trucker being a company driver, so I could just focus on just learning to be the best and safest driver that I can be, and learning the business before I make that kind of a decision. Because I feel like deciding whether or not to be a lease operator versus a company driver is a decision that I'm not ready to make, because I'm too inexperienced, I'm too unknowledgeable about it. And also, I only plan on being in the trucking trade for 2 years, 3 years tops, because I'm just using the trucking trade to basically live out of my truck as a dedicated over-the-road driver. So I'm not paying rent, and I'm just building up as much savings as I can to prepare to immigrate to Mexico. And also that I'm going to have an average of 2, sometimes 3 days off at a time, and I'll be living on my truck at that time. So I'm going to be using that time to also develop 2 other additional skill sets. One, I'm currently using the self-taught method to learn how to do 3D modeling, and I'm using Blender. And I will also have a 3D modeling vlog series on this YouTube channel eventually, where I just show some 3D modeling exercises that I'm doing. Like, I'm currently working on a space station that I'm building, and the whole point of me designing the space station, I don't think that I'm going to work for NASA or anything. It's just sort of an art project that I've sort of thought up out of the blue, that I'm doing for the purpose of gaining knowledge and experience on how to do things, because I'll get lost on like how to make this part or that part of the space station, and I just get on Google or YouTube and watch YouTube tutorial videos. Also, I'm going to, as part of my 3D modeling vlog, I'm going to create a vlog series reboot of Sci-Fi Eric's 50-something episode tutorial on how to make a 1960s TOS Enterprise using the blueprints for the 11-foot studio model that was used in the 60s. And when I was living in Mexico, I was developing 3D modeling skills because I was volunteering for an aerospace project that failed. And at that point, I actually went from zero knowledge and experience on 3D modeling to successfully building almost a movie quality 3D model of the 1701 Enterprise. That took about 93 days to go through his episodes, but he used a very, very old version of Blender, because from what I understand, I think Sci-Fi Eric just really liked that version of Blender. But I'm going to do a reboot of that series eventually, where I'm going to build that model all over again, and it's going to be basically the same type of tutorial on how to do it, but using the most up-to-date version of Blender. That way more people can learn how to 3D model. Yeah, I think that would be a cool vlog series to do. So, and also the other thing I'm going to be doing with my spare time is that I'm going to continue studying Spanish, because my goal is to, by the time I immigrate to Mexico, I want to be 1, fluent in Spanish. 2, I want to have developed really good 3D modeling skills, because there's a business that I want to start. I want to start a business where I'm designing, building, and selling my own drones. And because I have an idea for a new type of drone that doesn't use propellers, and it actually uses electricity to manipulate the air instead of propellers. And that will become a vlog series in and all of itself, because when I'm down in Mexico and I'm settled, I'm going to go back to continuing my education in engineering, because I've dabbled a little bit in college in engineering to see if I wanted to learn that. And I had to put it on pause due to finances, because I don't want to go up to my eyeballs in debt and student loans. And I've discovered that there's endless resources online to study any subject that you want. And that's a good thing for someone like me who doesn't care about earning a degree. I only care about learning the knowledge that that degree represents. And there's enough free resources online to study any subject imaginable out there. Like, you can download college textbooks that typically are worth hundreds of dollars each. You could download them for free on the internet if you know where to look. So I'm going to use a self-taught method to learn engineering, and electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, stuff like that, because I want to start my own aerospace project and basically create a version of the aerospace project that I volunteered for in Mexico, but one that actually succeeds. And basically learning from the failed aerospace project's mistakes. I don't feel comfortable naming that aerospace project because I don't want to use this channel to bash anyone. So I'm just going to say that, hey, I volunteered for an aerospace project when I was in Mexico to see if I wanted to get into aerospace engineering. And I was inspired to do that because of SpaceX. And I decided that I like it, but instead of me trying to work for an aerospace company, I want to start my own because I have an idea for a new type of rocket, and I kind of want to pull an Elon Musk, where basically I start a business where I design and build a new class of drone, the kind, like the small kind that you get at Best Buy. And if that business succeeds, big if, then I could use that money to help research and develop a new type of rocket into existence that I could start off by creating what's called a high-powered model rocket. And if I can get this new idea of a new form of propulsion to work, then I can, scale it up to something else. And because I have an idea for a new kind of rocket, and because here's the thing is, and the type of propulsion I'm talking about is called MHD. Now, you can use it for water, but I think there's a way to get it to be used in the atmosphere. And the biggest problem, if you ever do any real research on MHD, which is magnetohydrodynamic propulsion, you'll find out that in the end, we do have the technology to create aircraft that uses that form of propulsion. But the biggest problem has always been the power source, is that we've never been able to create a power source that generates enough electricity in a small enough package to fit it into a flying apparatus that's as large as a crop duster airplane or bigger. But no one's ever thought about just making a small drone, because with that you could just use lithium-ion batteries. So that's sort of an idea I have, but I need to continue developing my education in engineering to figure out how to actually make that work in the form of a drone just about this big. And I think it could be done. And I don't think anyone's ever thought about making it that small, because my idea is that if I can make that propulsion work in a small package like a drone, I could build a whole company of just building and selling those drones, and then hopefully someone else can come along and find a way how to scale it up so that like 50 to 100 years after the fact we could have literal flying saucers. And I think that we're about 50 to 100 years away from doing that, because you basically need a fusion reactor in order to generate enough electricity in a small enough package to actually have a flying saucer that uses MHD propulsion, because we can do it, but we need a good power source. And it just so happens that fusion reactor technology is still in its prototype phase, and we've only recently achieved ignition. And even then, for a brief moment, what that means is that the fusion reactor prototype puts out more energy than you put into it. And so we're still a long ways away from it. We've proven that it can be done, but now it's a matter of making fusion reactors practical, and that's probably going to take another 50 to 100 years, in my opinion. But anyway, enough of that rant. But now when it comes to trucking, the next phase, now that I passed my CDL, is to do the over-road training that I talked to you about. And also, let's see, at some point I'm going to be sent home to go to the very same DMV that I earned my CDL permit from. And basically I take the paperwork. I got 2 sets of test results. Test results that show that I passed everything but my driver's test, and a second set of test results that shows me retaking the driver's test and passing it. I got to take those 2 to a DMV, and I think one of 2 things is going to happen. They're going to either print out a CDL driver's license card on the spot and give it to me, and take my CDL permit card from me, or they're going to give me a temporary printout, and then the new CDL driver's license card will probably show up in the mail. And at that point, that I would be sent home again. And for those who are still getting to know me, I was a welder for 13 years. I graduated welding school back in 2007, and by the end of my welding career, I was fabricating the best mini hydraulic excavators and small tractors in the world for Caterpillar, all the way up until the pandemic started shutting the factory down. And then at that point, I lost my apartment, and I lost a lot of stuff, and similar things happened to other members of my family, and that resulted in me, my mom, my sister, and my adopted little brother all living under the same roof for the first time since me and my sister were kids. And my sister is 5 years older than me. I'm 38. And I've been basically door dashing ever since, and for 4 years. And one of those 4 years, I spent nearly a year in Mexico because when the pandemic hit, it sort of forced me to be like, hey, I need to consider learning more than just one trade, so that if stuff hits the fan, I'm not screwed like what happened to me with welding. And I was kind of getting tired of welding, and so I went to and around that same time, SpaceX started landing rockets, and Elon Musk went nuts and launched a car into space. So that inspired me to be like, hey, this might be a good time for me to consider getting into aerospace engineering. It would be really cool, especially since SpaceX is literally building starships in a Starship shipyard in Texas, which is freaking cool. And just recently, they launched a Starship prototype and a booster rocket that's, I think, around 400 feet tall when they're both together. And the booster rocket came back to Earth, and instead of landing, the launch tower caught it in midair. It was freaking cool. Just get on YouTube and look up SpaceX booster catch. It's insane. It's like they basically caught a flying corn silo. That's what it looks like. And I think that's really cool. Like, I never thought in a million years that interplanetary spaceships would exist in my lifetime, and yet here we are. And so I think now that humanity's taken the first steps towards becoming a spacefaring civilization, because we've reached the point of reaching for the stars as a result of a pissing contest between two empires, like in the space race, to now we got people reaching for the stars for the sake of bettering themselves and the rest of humanity. And that's the correct way to reach for the stars. And I want to participate in the process of humanity becoming a spacefaring civilization in that context, instead of the context of two empires trying to achieve the higher ground, which space is ultimately the highest high ground, But so I want to kind of do my own aerospace project, and who knows where that will lead. But I want to do it in a certain way, in which my plan is that when I immigrate to Mexico, I want to take $100,000 to $150,000 with me to Mexico. And the purpose is because I plan to eventually go through the whole bureaucratic process of, one, obtaining a residency permit in Mexico, then eventually obtaining Mexican citizenship, and then I plan on eventually getting rid of my American citizenship. Because when you're an immigrant and you immigrate to another country and you assimilate to that culture, which is the type of immigrant that I want to be, but you're an American citizen, you still have to pay American taxes, and I'll end up in a situation where I'll be paying both American taxes and Mexican taxes, and it's not sustainable in my opinion. So I want to eventually get rid of my American citizenship. Also, and the other reason I want to not pay American taxes anymore is because I don't want my tax dollars to go to a government that's responsible for endless wars. Most of the wars and conflicts the United States government is involved in is stuff that they create. Osama bin Laden was an enemy that was created by the U.S. government. The whole thing in Ukraine is the U.S. government's fault. There was a peace agreement called the Minsk Agreements, and that was sabotaged. There was a time when Russia wanted to join NATO, and this was like after Russia went and did the transition of going from being the Soviet Union to what is now called the Russian Federation. They wanted to join NATO. They wanted to make peace with NATO, but the U.S. government said no, because the U.S. government needs Russia to be the bad guys so that the U.S. military-industrial complex can continue profiting from war. And I don't want to fund that. And that's what U.S. tax dollars go to. I want no part in the United States trying to instigate a third world war, which I would argue would be a fourth world war if you consider the 7 Years' War the first world war. And thing is that I believe that war is obsolete. At the end of the day, we're Terrans. We're all inhabitants of the earth. And the only way that we're going to survive what's coming is if we face it together. And what's coming is the future. And see, at the end of the day, we humans, we're pack animals. And we are at our strongest when we work together. Whenever we become, too much of anything is a bad thing. Too much individualism leads to people not working together. And one of the things I love about Mexico's culture is it seems to be a healthy blend between collectivism, because of their strong family community values, and individualism. It's sort of like a balance between the two. And just the way that I see Mexicans treat each other in general down in Mexico is amazing. They're in comparison to how Americans treat each other on average in the United States, where we're just aggressive, and how many times have you heard that it's a dog eat dog world? You got to be a killer to get ahead. That's the American mentality, because we have too much individualism. We need to have a balance and say, hey, we're all in this together. And I challenge you to download an app, a NASA app, that you can use to actually watch a live internet feed of Earth from orbit from the International Space Station. And I guarantee you, if you watch that feed long enough, you watch Earth from orbit long enough, you'll realize the truth about humanity. That is that we're all in this together. When you view Earth from orbit, all you see is land, water, and weather. And you don't see borders. You just see that we're all in this together. And until we have the ability to travel to other solar systems, we're stuck with each other. And if we don't learn to work together, if we don't learn to come together, we're gonna cause our own extinction. Think about this. Why did the dinosaurs go extinct? I'll tell you why. Because they did not become an interstellar species. They didn't evolve or develop into that point in time. And then some natural disaster happened, and now they're all dead. And that's what's going to happen to us. And if we don't learn to work together. And thing is, I believe, and there's a huge argument out there about, maybe we should focus on solving our problems on Earth before we reach for the stars. Well, I argue that there's enough people on Earth for us to do both. And also, reaching for the stars might enhance our ability to do both. Because, let's think about it. Hypothetically speaking, if all the nations of the world decided to work together and stop trying to kill each other, alright, and decided to lift everyone out of poverty. Right now, we got 9.5 billion people live on this planet. There's not enough resources on this planet to lift everyone out of poverty. And even if there was enough resources on this planet alone to do that, the acquisition of those resources is destroying our planet. The more that we mine things such as petroleum and anything that we have to mine, like petroleum and natural gas, function as natural shock absorbers in the Earth's crust from the shock from tectonic activity. And the more we mine that stuff, the more our earthquakes increase. And it's just a bad. And the thing is that there isn't a single type of resource on Earth, not even water, that isn't in absolute abundance in our solar system. We got an asteroid called Eros that's got more gold and platinum than all the reserves on Earth. We got moons in our solar system, in the Jovian system, or probably the Saturn system, that have more water than Earth does. It's raining diamonds on Neptune. and don't get me started on the Oort cloud. The Oort cloud hasn't even begun to truly be explored yet, and there's probably enough planetoids and asteroids and chunks of ice just floating out there to sustain humanity for centuries. It's just a matter of getting to those resources. And thing is that either humanity will learn to cooperate with each other, or will go extinct. And if we learn to cooperate with each other, but also develop the ability to travel to all the abundant, endless resources that are in our solar system alone, including the Oort cloud, then we have the resources we needed to help every single human being. And the thing is that that so both are equally important for our long-term survival as a species. And let's not forget, our sun has an expiration date. It may take millions of years for it to turn into a red giant, but sooner or later it's going to happen. And if we don't become an interstellar species, that will extinct us. And on top of that, our planet's on a shooting gallery. Do you have any idea how many asteroids come close to Earth? It's only a matter of time before one of them smacks into us, and a big enough one, And it happened before; it could happen again, But if we have the ability to deflect an asteroid, that's another thing, But I could go on and on. But I wanted to include all these different subjects in this new trucker vlog because I just want to let you know that there's going to be more than one type of vlog that's in this YouTube channel. There's this trucker vlog where I'm documenting my journey to go from absolute noob trucker to becoming a professional driver, and I'm also going to be vlogging 3D modeling, and I'm also vlogging an experience I have in crypto, stuff like that. And I'm sorry I can't use my chalkboard right now because I can't take my chalkboard with me on the road. So my vlogs are probably going to be more something along the lines like this, and I'll eventually get my microphone and audio interface out of storage so that I can have better audio quality. And eventually, as I can afford it, I'll probably get a better camera. Right now I'm just using the camera built into my laptop. But wish me luck on this trucking journey and my eventual immigration journey. The whole point of me getting in trucking is so that I can afford to immigrate responsibly. And and when I do my immigration to Mexico, I'm not planning on starting an aerospace project right away. My plan is to, the reason I want to bring $100,000 to $150,000 with him in Mexico is because I want to, build my own house, which would only cost around $50,000. But I have to go through a whole process of meeting all the legal requirements so I can actually keep the house once I build it. But then I eventually want to build another house and have a cycle where I'm building a house and then selling it, building a house, selling it, and then have another house that I build and then I rent it out, stuff like that. And then I'm going to be using what free time I have while being a trucker to also obtain a TESOL certification so I can learn to teach English as a second language. That'll be a second job I have. And then hopefully I'll make more than enough money to take care of myself and a family, because I do plan on getting married and have kids, but I'm not going to date again until I'm down in Mexico. I'm also planning on finishing losing my weight. Believe it or not, I used to be a lot bigger. I recently just dropped 100 pounds, and it was just basic dieting and exercising, and I'm going to continue that, and hopefully I will have finished losing my weight before I get to Mexico. And I'm not doing that for any other reason than I just want to be healthier. I just want to better myself. And also too, whenever I do get married and have kids, I want to be a better example to my kids when it comes to being responsible with your body and your health. And also another reason I'm planning on not even dating until I'm back in Mexico is that I really like how Mexicans do family. I love their old-fashioned family values, and that's something that my family used to have generations ago, but somehow it got into my family's head that traditional family values are obsolete. And what did we get for our trouble? 3 generations of fatherlessness. And it's my responsibility to break that cycle. And I think I could do that by becoming a passport bro. And for those of you who don't know what a passport bro is, there's 3 different types of passport bros. Let me put it that way. A passport bro is someone who goes and tries to find a woman who's traditional in another country, because it's hard. It's like a needle in a haystack situation. Try to find that in the U.S. because in Western culture in general, old-fashioned family values, traditional values, is somehow considered obsolete and somehow a form of oppression against women. And but there's a lot of countries out there that haven't made that mistake, and as a result, they're more stable. Go figure. It makes sense considering that 70% of men that are in prison right now in the U.S. grew up in fatherless homes. I wonder why. Because we live in a culture where men are taught not to trust women, and women are taught that they need a man like a fish needs a bicycle. But we've, for the most part in America, have forgotten the truth that we human beings at the end of the day are pack animals. which means that we need each other, and we are at our strongest when we depend on each other. And we are at our weakest when we try to become a lone wolf. And we think that being independent makes us strong. And a lot of times folks will use the lone wolf analogy to justify that being alone makes you stronger, that being independent makes you strong. Let me tell you something. You can't be independent and be strong. Not as a human, because that's not how humans work. Let me tell you something. Yes, it is true that that in the wild, a lone wolf is probably the most dangerous and strongest wolf there is. But for every one lone wolf out there, there's 100 other wolves that died because they couldn't handle going it alone. And so a lone wolf is an exception, not a rule. And wolves, canines, they're just as much pack animals as humans are. You know, a pack, family, it's the same thing. You know, and I want to bring those family values back to my family. And this isn't the first time that like immigrating to another country for future generations to be better has happened in my family. My family originally immigrated from England and West Germany to the United States several generations ago for the purpose of future generations having a better life, and for the most part they succeeded. Now it's my turn to do that for my family. And I don't hate America, you know, but I just don't support what my government does. We have a new president, and he's, you know, talking a lot of stuff about trying to make world peace, and I wish him the best, but, you know, my future children can't afford for me to sit around and wait to see if that's going to succeed or not. And I think it's time for me to raise my kids in a country like Mexico that still holds family values to be something extremely important. Of course, I'm speaking generally. There's over 100 million people that live in Mexico. Not all families are the same. But from what I observed when I lived in Jalisco for almost a year, I have never seen so many fathers active in their families in my life. I have never seen so many non-broken homes in my life. It was very inspiring. And I want that for my future kids. And if that means I gotta immigrate to another country, learn a new language, assimilate to a whole culture, and leave my culture's ways behind to do that, well, my future children deserve every advantage that I can physically provide them. So that's what I'm doing. And that's what a passport bro is. Now, there's 3 different types of passport bros that I'm aware of. There's what I call Vin Diesel passport bros, which are like me, that, you know, we just care about family. And then there's what I call, but a lot of times, Vin Diesel passport bros will marry someone who's in another country, bring them back to the U.S. And a lot of times they have a problem where that woman becomes Americanized, and she loses those traditional values, and then she's just as bad as a Western woman. So that brings us to category number 2 of passport bros, which is I call them never coming back Vin Diesel passport bros, and that's the kind of passport bro that I want to become. And then there's what I call STD passport bros. Those are the people that a lot of Western women bash, that think that all passport bros are like, which they're basically sex tourists. Is that they're the kind that criticize women for basically living the lifestyle of a whore, and being a whore, and then but they're mad that they can't do the same thing, because let's face it, it's always easier for a woman to get laid than a guy is to get laid. And a guy doesn't have to work as hard to get laid in other countries if your money is worth more than that country's money. And so you got a lot of guys that go to other countries and they're basically sex tourists. They criticize Western women for being whores, and then they go to these other countries and do the very thing that they're criticizing Western women for doing. And it's kind of hypocritical. And those I call STD passport bros, because traveling to other countries, having sex with lots of strangers, greatly increases your chances of having an STD. Can we all say gonorrhea? Here's the thing. I mean, if I don't care which one of the 3 you are. If you're a passport bro and you're watching this, it's your life. But I'm just stating facts, and facts don't care about feelings. So anyway, that's what's going on in this latest trucker vlog, which is sort of like my trucker vlog, but also an announcement of other vlogs that I want to do. And I hope this video helps someone someday in regards to um, learning what it's like to get into the trucking trade. And also, maybe this might help the passport bro community too. To say, hey, there are good passport bros out there that aren't sex tourists. And look, I ain't delusional. I mean, that whole reason of me. I mean, of course, I don't even want to date again until I finish losing my weight, because I think the kind of woman that I want is not going to want me unless I have my shit together. Because any traditional woman that puts family first is not going to want to build a family with a guy who doesn't have his shit together. And I believe that includes health and fitness, not just finances. But, that's just, my opinion. But anyway, y'all have a good day, and hope y'all had a good Thanksgiving, and I wish y'all a Merry Christmas.